Following her mother's passing, an intelligent teen develops a cynical outlook in life and withdraws from family and friends. When her school is taken over by a group of armed students, she utilizes her survival and hunting skills to save herself. While saving those she can, she rediscovers her empathy and kindness to those who care about her, while learning to let go of the deep-seated pain she is allowed to take over since her mother's death. Out in the woods, Todd and his teenage daughter Zoe are on the ground with their hunting rifles aimed at a buck. Todd then instructs his daughter to take the shot in between breaths. As she takes down the animal, Todd pats her approvingly. When they approach the wounded animal, Zoe quickly puts it out of its misery by slamming a rock on its head. Her seeming lack of sympathy surprises her father, who thinks it has something to do with her mother's passing. While having breakfast, Zoe talks to her late mother, Jennifer, who lost her battle with cancer. When Jennifer asks about prom, the annoyed Zoe tells her to stop. Suddenly, Todd comes in, interrupting his daughter's hallucination. Todd praises his daughter for her good hunting earlier. Suddenly, Lewis, Zoe's best friend, honks outside to pick her up for school. Before Zoe leaves, Todd suggests that they see someone to help with Zoe's mental struggles. However, the guarded teen dismisses his idea and then leaves with Lewis, who intentionally barges in to save her from their heated discussion. On the drive to school, bullies Roy and AJ are swerving right behind Lewis and Zoe. When they move to the other lane, one of the bullies moons them. This bothers Zoe, who claims that their behavior is due to a lack of parental attention. After the bullies drive them off the road, Lewis' car won't start, so Zoe tells him to wait for a minute before trying again, in case the engine's flooded. While waiting, Zoe notices their schoolmate Chris Jellick placing a mysterious item in the middle of the field. As Zoe grows suspicious, Lewis assures her that the behavior is normal because it's senior prank day. At Vernon Central High, Zoe and Lewis see the senior students pulling silly pranks. In the hallway, Lewis notices that Zoe skipped checking her locker, where he left his promposal for her. As Zoe heads straight to class, Lewis tries to convince her to help him with his yearbook layout in the office near her locker, but she tells him to wait after lunch, leaving him frustrated. In class, Cora hands Zoe a wireless earbud to share her latest composition. Amazed by her friend's song, Zoe tells her jokingly to have it played at her funeral. Suddenly, math teacher Mr. Yates calls the students' attention and complains about not having his morning coffee because students filled the teacher's lounge with balloons. Just as he's about to start his lesson, two students interrupt the class. The male student pulls a Renaissance-themed promposal on one of Zoe's classmates. In her next class, Zoe's chemistry teacher, Mrs. Crawford, performs a balloon experiment. After the bell rings, Mrs. Crawford speaks with Zoe privately, telling her to be active in class because it might help her cope. When Mrs. Crawford admits that she's not used to seeing the bright student fade into the background, Zoe asserts she can't wait to leave everything behind and study at Purdue, where she was accepted because of the teacher's recommendation. Zoe then heads to her locker, where she sees Lewis' promposal. Meanwhile, the item that Chris placed on the field turns out to be a homemade explosive. During Mr. Coombs' reading of Proust's writings to the class, Zoe notices a strange plume of smoke rising in the distance. Meanwhile, Kip carries a mysterious backpack and intentionally leaves it in the administrative office. During lunch, Lewis brings up the topic of the promposal to clarify that he is inviting her as a friend, implying that she needs the social interaction. His implication upsets Zoe, so Lewis tries to comfort her, but he knocks over her juice, soiling her jacket. She excuses herself to the restroom, where she spots Anna, who seemingly hid something in the ceiling. Meanwhile, a series of blasts occur, revealing multiple homemade explosives planted across town. As Anna leaves the ladies' room, she bumps into Zoe. The suspicious Zoe checks the ceiling, but discovers nothing. Suddenly, Zoe sees her mother again, who comments on how rough she was on Lewis, but the teen reasons she didn't want to lead her friend on. Meanwhile, as Lewis waits for Zoe in the cafeteria, a white van suddenly crashes through the glass window, hitting a student. Chris gets out of the vehicle and shoots the injured student, followed by another female student. As everyone starts to panic, Anna, Chris's sister, starts shooting at the ceiling. Kip, on the other hand, shoots at the innocent Amy Kim. Then, the mastermind, Tristan Voy, comes out of the van and passionately kisses Anna. After drying her wet jacket, Zoe is about to head out when the injured Amy stumbles into the restroom. Panicked, she tries to revive Amy, who eventually passes away. Back in the cafeteria, Tristan informs the students that they're now in charge, and everyone must obey his commands if they want to survive. Suddenly, he spots Roy, who always bullied him in the school hallways. As Tristan messes with Roy, Chris shoots without his permission. Shocked, the leader reminds his aggressive lackey to only use the gun when necessary. unnecessary. After sensing that something is off, Zoe silently steps out of the restroom and listens to the armed student's conversation. When a male student exits the men's room, she tries to warn him, but he ends up being one of the hostages. Before Kip catches her, Jennifer appears and tells Zoe to run. She returns to the restroom to escape through the ceiling. Meanwhile, as Kip checks the stalls, he sees Amy, the girl he shot earlier, lifeless on the floor. In the cafeteria, Tristan instructs Dawn to call a loved one. She then contacts her mother, who promises to call the police. Afterwards, Tristan orders everyone to call their loved ones one last time. Meanwhile, as Zoe crawls above the ceiling, she falls into the cafeteria kitchen, prompting Tristan to instruct Chris to shoot the person who caused the racket. Before Chris enters the kitchen, Zoe hides next to Brenda, the lunch lady. However, as Chris calls for the intruder, Brenda sacrifices herself to keep Zoe safe. Witnessing the lunch lady's demise, Zoe cries silently. Later, Tristan calls the school receptionist, informing her about the situation in the cafeteria. While she talks to him, she signals the security guard and the principal right away. In the kitchen, Zoe crawls silently toward the fire exit and finds her way outside. As she runs away from the school, she quickly turns back to save the others. When Zoe sees other students entering the school, she warns them to escape, informing them of the situation. Afterwards, Cora joins her to save those who are still inside the classrooms. To get more attention, Tristan orders all the hostages to live stream the event, informing the online audience what he intends to do. While the students record him, he warns that those who will interrupt or turn off the stream will be shot immediately. As Tristan speaks, the security guard and the principal, Rob, enter the cafeteria. Rob feels that it's his fault for threatening Tristan with expulsion. Tristan admits going to the principal's office twice so he can duplicate the principal's keys in the morning session and replace them in the afternoon. As the guilty principal tries to negotiate, Chris suddenly shoots him, but spares the security guard, who fearfully wets his pants. Meanwhile, Zoe and Cora interrupt Miss Green's class, but the teacher thinks they're just pulling a prank. Afterwards, they attempt to go inside the school to fully convince everyone, but the doors are locked. When Tristan learns that Lewis, the school page admin, has 1,000 viewers, he assigns him to be the main cameraman. Afterwards, Tristan instructs the others to hand over their phones. Later, while Lewis follows Tristan to record him, he notices that the white van has explosives inside. Meanwhile, Zoe breaks into Mr. Yates' classroom to warn them. As the students escape through the window, one of the students shows Mr. Yates to Tristan's live stream. Zoe then pulls the fire alarm, alerting everyone to evacuate. After hearing the alarm, Tristan instructs Anna to check what's going on, while ordering the hostages to move the tables to block the shattered window. In the electrical room, Anna shoots the guard and cuts all the wires to turn the alarm off. As a result, the teachers think it was a false alarm, prompting everyone to go back inside the rooms. Realizing that the alarm has stopped, Zoe attempts to go to the office to make an announcement. Elsewhere, Sheriff Tarsi and Deputy Williams are stuck in a traffic jam caused by the series of blasts across town. In the electrical room, Anna flips all the switches, cutting off the power throughout the building. Meanwhile, Zoe runs to the corridors, warning everyone, but then slips on a slippery slide created by a prankster. On the road, Sheriff Tarsi argues with Officer Tommy on the phone because the cop wants to enter the school despite the danger. The sheriff believes that negotiation should be their first tactic. Shortly after the first batch of cops arrive, the receptionist announces a school-wide lockdown, ordering everyone to stay put. Suddenly, a bag of explosives goes off in the administrative office, ending everyone in the area except Zoe, who's in the hallway. Finally, Sheriff Tarsi and Deputy Williams arrive at the school, but they see a badly burnt Tommy stumbling out. Tarsi tries to save him, but the cop perishes. The confused sheriff then orders the other cops not to enter the building. In the cafeteria, Tristan's elated that their live stream has reached a wider audience. Meanwhile, Cora runs to Tarsi, showing him the live event inside the cafeteria. In the hallway, Zoe awakens and realizes she's the sole survivor of the blast. As she goes through the lifeless cop's pockets, she speaks with her mother, who later shares that she's not fully free yet because Zoe hasn't accepted her passing. When she hears someone approaching, Zoe plays possum. As Anna records everything for Tristan, she kicks the cop and then steps on the phone in Zoe's hand. In the cafeteria, Lewis thinks Zoe is one of the casualties when he catches a glimpse of Anna's video. Suddenly, Kip announces that their live stream will air on a news channel, prompting the excited Tristan to create interesting content. He then takes Lewis and Kip to the classrooms, leaving Chris behind to keep an eye on the hostages. Tristan then goes to Miss Nunez's class, where he instructs the teacher to remove her clothes for the live stream. To interrupt Tristan, Lewis informs him that he enabled the live comments feature, which initially annoys Tristan but eventually piques his interest as he grows curious of the viewers' questions. To save more students, Zoe bangs on a classroom door, but Anna hears this and shoots Zoe's leg. When her mother tells her to hide, Zoe goes to the balloon-filled teacher's lounge, where she takes the opportunity to stealthily attack Anna. In the struggle, she holds Anna's gun away from her face and pulls the trigger, shooting the other woman's head. Afterwards, she takes Anna's phone and belt. Meanwhile, Officer Banks heads to Tristan's home, only to find his lifeless mother on the couch. In the hallway, Zoe uses Anna's belt as a tourniquet for her gunshot wound. When she opens the phone, she sees what's happening in the Spanish classroom, where Lewis asks Tristan some questions coming from the viewers. Concurrently, Todd hears the news about Vernon Central High on the radio. He immediately takes his rifle and heads to the school. In the cafeteria, Chris is debating with the voices in his head when he suddenly hears the cops outside. He shoots at them from the window, prompting Tristan to take the whole Spanish class back with him to the cafeteria. Meanwhile, Kip shoots at the chemistry classroom, signaling the teacher and students to go with him. Just then, the limp Zoe runs past him, prompting him to chase her. To trap Kip, Zoe leads him to the slippery slide and then knocks him unconscious with a fire extinguisher. Finally, she cuffs him to a seat in the auditorium. Her mother reappears, somehow healthier looking with a full head of hair, and they continue to discuss finally accepting her death. As Zoe talks to her mom, Kip wakes up and mocks her for hearing voices in her head. The curious Zoe asks him why he joined Tristan's team, and Kip admits that he did it because he was bullied. Kip shares that students and teachers have been giggling behind his back ever since bullies pulled his pants down in front of an assembly in the 6th grade. Aghast by his reasoning, Zoe asks if he realizes that most of the people he's hurt are innocent, including Amy Kim, who didn't deserve what happened to her. Finally, Todd arrives, and Lauren Cope, his late wife's hairdresser, shows him the live stream. When Lauren's son Connor joins them, he tells Todd that his daughter saved them, but she's still inside the school. After leaving Kip, Zoe grabs his gun and runs into Mrs. Crawford's class. To help them, she contacts Cora so she can speak with Sheriff Tarsi, whom she advises to take news cameras off the school so that the armed teens won't know about the evacuation. While Sheriff Tarsi negotiates with Tristan, Zoe gets a signal that the path is clear for everyone to run out. As the students flee, Mrs. Crawford decides to stay with Zoe to save more people. However, upon seeing one of the rescued students on TV, Tristan discovers that the sheriff is distracting him and that someone is helping the students from the inside. At the gym, Tristan calls Anna and Kip's phones, but Zoe doesn't respond. Shortly after watching the live stream, she finally decides to reveal her identity, to Lewis' relief. After hearing what happened to his friends, Tristan orders Zoe to surrender in the cafeteria. To make sure she won't take long, he threatens to shoot one person every 5 minutes, firing at the student in front of him to prove that he's serious. While her time is running out, Zoe goes to the auditorium to release Kip, whom she convinces to take her side to change his legacy. She then hands him a rifle, and they head to the cafeteria together. As soon as Tristan sees Zoe, he instructs her to walk towards the center of the room, near Lewis. Meanwhile, Chris wants to shoot her because of what she did to his sister. Knowing that her daughter is in grave danger, Todd takes his rifle and looks through the scope to see the situation in the cafeteria. He attempts to shoot, but Tristan and Chris keep moving around, making it difficult for him to get an accurate shot. When Kip arrives, Tristan mocks him, saying that he knew that he wasn't cut up for their plan. As Kip threatens them, Zoe inches closer to Lewis. After Chris shoots Kip, Zoe and Lewis take advantage of the situation and flee the cafeteria, so Tristan commands Chris to go after them. In the hallway, Zoe discovers that Lewis got hit. To make sure they won't be followed, she leaves the live streaming phone on the floor. Then, she takes her wounded friend to a room, laying him on the couch before kissing him passionately to express her fondness for him. While Lewis feels the same way, he feels the need to share the pertinent information that the white van in the cafeteria has explosives. Zoe runs into the hallway to get Chris's attention. As he chases her, they end up in the chemistry lab, where Zoe turns the gas on, triggering a minor blast that quickly catches Todd's attention. While Chris strikes Zoe, Todd positions himself to shoot his daughter's perpetrator. Just as Chris is about to shoot Zoe, Todd fires at the armed student, saving his daughter's life. When the cops hear the gunshot, they quickly arrive on the scene to arrest Todd. After tearfully gazing at her dad through the window, Zoe checks Chris's pockets and takes his phone. Suddenly, her mom appears, encouraging her to fight. She then sends Tristan a photo of his lifeless friend. Realizing that he's the only one left, Tristan activates the timed explosives in the van. In the hallway, Zoe picks up the live streaming phone and mocks Tristan, telling him that people will forget about him and remember her instead. This triggers him to instruct one hostage to take an explosive with him, and the two men escape. Seeing Tristan and the student on the other side of the hallway, Zoe enters the cafeteria, where she sees the explosive set to go off in 44 seconds. After instructing the hostages to escape, Zoe spots the injured ones, who are moving slowly. Knowing she doesn't have much time left, she starts the van, places the rifle on the gas pedal, and then shifts the vehicle into reverse. The van rolls out of the building and into the parking lot where the explosive detonates, saving the injured students from the blast. Afterward, Zoe rushes after Tristan, but a SWAT officer holds her down in the hallway. Suddenly, a blast occurs, revealing a charred body, whom the SWAT guys believe is Tristan. While Zoe is restrained, her mother reappears and wishes her farewell, implying that she's finally been freed from Zoe's grieving heart. Later, Tarsi apologizes to Zoe on behalf of the SWAT team's actions and praises her bravery. He informs her that Tristan perished from the blast. She then speaks to her father, who commends her for her courage. Behind her, the medic team arrives with Lewis on a stretcher, assuring Zoe that he's going to be okay. Suddenly, Zoe notices Tristan from afar, wearing a cap and slyly walking into the woods. She quickly retrieves her father's rifle and follows him to the creek, where she sees him opening a box containing money and a passport. As he rummages through the box's contents, Zoe aims the rifle and shoots him in the chest. She approaches him and picks up a rock, attempting to slam it on his head as she did with the buck earlier that day. However, she changes her mind, thinking he deserves no mercy, so she leaves him to suffer agonizingly. Zoe heads back to the school to tell the sheriff what occurred, and a squad of officers immediately head to where Tristan's body is.
Subscribe to watch more videos like this, turn on notifications and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.